All right, I think we're live. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the second ever episode of the Love Jesus podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. I have Carson Carpenter on. He is the CEO of Off the Record USA. And I wanted to bring him on today to talk about the Supreme Court ruling that allows birthright citizenship for illegal aliens' children, which basically betrays Americans, obviously. And then I also want to talk to him a little bit about putting Christ back in the government and how we can accomplish that. So, Carson, first of all, man, thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate you taking the time.
Thank you very much, Drew, for having me. I don't have the camera on. It's because I'm up in the mountains of the Wild West, right? So I love to join from anywhere, and thank you again for having me.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, for sure. So, Carson, just starting out here, what do you think about the Supreme Court ruling today? Do you think, are you in favor of birthright citizenship for illegal aliens? Are you against it? I think I know your answer, but just for the audience, kind of give a little background about like what is birthright citizenship, what is the history of it, kind of just go over those things.
Yeah, obviously, I definitely do not align with giving illegals birthright citizenship among a lot of different avenues. How we scapegoat our country's sovereignty is just such a blatant abuse. And I can't believe Amy Coney Barrett, among the other, it was a group of women that came together and really decided to destroy our country on a random Monday and Tuesday. And we might even
True.
follow suit tomorrow morning once they rule on the assault weapons ban, well, if that is going to happen. And so with birthright citizenship, like you said, explaining the history, it was used as a way to talk about freed slaves with the 14th, 15th, 16th amendments, with the civil rights amendments, essentially, specifically the 14th. And what that meant was, removing the title of property on slaves and giving them full citizenship, whereas illegals coming into our country has a different context because they are citizens of other nations. Slaves were not
Right.
citizens of any other nations. Therefore, there is treason that can be involved. There is foreign interests. There is foreign conglomerates, corporations, among anything else that could be brought as a national security threat to our country. And that's the main distinction between birthright citizenship of the old and of the new.
Right. Well, and one thing that I thought about too today when, reading through all of this is that, what really is the incentive to keep people out of the country, right? Because if you allow people to come here and they're allowed to have children and then their children can have birthright citizenship, it's more of an incentive, I feel like, for them to come here. Would you agree with that?
Oh, it absolutely incentivizes them. It incentivizes them to commit a crime against the United States, which, by the way, entering our country illegally is still a misdemeanor. So we have the Supreme Court
True.
ruling that, yes, we are going to uphold birthright citizenship. And they are so weak and feckless that they won't address the elephant in the room of how come the classification of entering and breaking our nation's sovereign laws is still a misdemeanor. It's such a petty crime. And if our Supreme Court had any integrity, they would rule upon that immediately.
Well, dude, that's so true. It's like, our country is not just something to be trodden over. We're not a playground for illegal aliens to come in. This is not the McDonald's playground, for illegal aliens to just stop by. Oh, okay, we're going to hang out here for a little bit and then, do whatever we like. It's like, no, we're a real country. We have borders. We should have borders. And we need to enforce the law. And for people to be against that, for people to say, oh, well, that's mean, that's rude, you're being mean to the children, you don't care about the children. It's like, dude, nobody's talking about hating the children at all. It's like, it's just a total misrepresentation from the other side. It's crazy. Oh, Carson, do we still have you? I think Carson, are you back? I think we might have lost you for a second. Hello? Let's see here. Oh, he said lost you. Okay, all right. Oh, are we back? Are we so back?
Oh, I think we're back. I am planted right
Okay.
next to my router.
No, it's all good. It's okay. It's okay. Did you hear anything that I said in the last part there?
I did not. Look, I'm sorry to the viewers. We're out in the middle of nowhere, okay? Look, this is how the rugged Western men still live. They still exist in this
So
country.
true.
So sorry if I'm making you repeat yourself, Drew. But yeah, I did not hear a lick of what you said.
No, you're totally fine. Look, we need pioneers like yourself, Carson. You know, you guys are the ones who built up the country, so we need pioneers leading the movement and really doing the Lord's work. So basically, what I was saying on that last point was just that I feel like a lot of people think of our country right now, especially the illegal immigrants and also their children as well, think of it as like the McDonald's playground, where they can just come in and just do whatever they please, and there's going to be no sort of laws against them or no sort of punishment, right, for them breaking and entering into the country, essentially. And it's just so crazy. And whenever you bring this up to people, a very common sense statement, they just get mad at you and they say, "Oh, well, you don't care about the children," or "Oh, you're being mean to the children." And it's like, dude, nobody's saying to hate the children. We love the children. They're, obviously children of God. They're made in God's image, the Imago Dei, right? But there is a distinction that needs to be made that, okay, like, look, their parents committed a crime, okay? And just because your parents committed a crime does not give you leeway to just stay in the country, you know? So it's a very odd situation talking to some people about this, and they get so angry about it.
It's more inhumane, in fact, to allow your child or carry over an unbirthed child into the United States and the parents being complicit to that, especially being complicit to child trafficking, among another list of horrible crimes, horrible, horrible crimes. And
True.
when you talk about the inhumanity of this situation, all the liberals and all the left seems to care about is the end result, that the ends justify the means, yet the can get that child seriously hurt, seriously injured, or even way worse. So I believe that it's a fairy tale looking of the world of saying that the ends are going to justify the means, yet most of the time it usually ends in a bad result for the family or for that child, whether it's in the US or while they're being trafficked up through Mexico.
Dude, no, that's so true. And we saw that very explicitly during the Biden administration when the borders were wide open and human trafficking was out of control. I think I saw that Alex Jones, out of all people, did a report there and at the border. And I mean, he was just filming all of it, all of the horrendous essentially crimes against humanity going on, all the human trafficking. And it's a crazy situation. I do want to ask you, I know you've been doing some debates with Dean Withers. What would Dean Withers say about this on TikTok Live?
I mean, Dean Withers truly does not care about empathy or compassion. He doesn't even recognize that humans have immaterial soul within them. So it's a really interesting fact that Dean Withers says he loves his girlfriend, he loves all of his people around him. He doesn't believe they
Mm,
have a soul. He doesn't believe they have any type of empathy when it comes to how you deal with these people. And so I think Dean Withers would be okay with just letting all of these children being trafficked up. And it's just really a lack of empathy when you see with these leftists. Again, it's that same mentality of the ends justify the means. And we know that in this world, that's not how the real world works.
yeah. No, I think I can't remember who said this, but it's like liberal. I think it might have been Owen Schroyer said that liberalism, basically the ideology is people living in their imagination and their fantasies. And whether you want to call it conservatism or just being right wing is more so about being in reality. Seeing the reality of things. And I think that's so true because you talk to a lot of these leftists, and I'm sure you can speak on this a little bit too, like at some of the campus stops you guys did early on. And a lot of these liberals, when they talk, you hear them say things like, "Well, this is the way it should be," or "Well, this is the way that I want it." And it's like, "Well, sorry, sweetheart, that's not how life always works." It's like sometimes you got to live in reality a little bit, and you got to recognize the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I've seen it plenty of times. I've been on the Santa Monica Pier and I've seen a transgender living out their wildest fantasies in public. It's really borderline disgusting and it's immoral to the people around them. I've also been in West Hollywood on the gay bar district where
Oh
there is a
man.
mother and
Oh, I think we lost Carson again. It's okay. Hey, it's okay. We will do Carson part 2 because I'm loving this interview so far. So we will have him back on, but we're gonna try to get through this episode here. Hopefully there's no tech issues or anything. Let me make sure real quick that we're still going on YouTube. Let me know in the chat, in the YouTube live chat. I'm looking at that right now. Let me know what you guys think. I am currently looking up the YouTube channel right now, making sure the stream is going and everything. Again, if you guys are not subscribed, would very much appreciate it if you guys did subscribe, like the live stream. Okay, let's see if we can get Carson back on here. Hopefully that invite works. Yeah, okay, the invite should still be valid, but yeah, I mean, just kind of expanding what I was talking about last time, I think that, like I said, what Owen said is so true, man. It's like liberals and liberalism is not living in reality. It's just not. And I wouldn't even call myself necessarily a conservative in the strict sense, okay? I would consider myself a Catholic, okay? Whatever political belief on the spectrum is, Catholic. That's what I believe. So if you want to know what I believe, go to the Catechism of the Catholic Church, okay? That's where you're going to find my beliefs at. And but there is a real sense in that, like liberalism and modernism and all of these heresies pretty much result back to the same conclusion, and it's that they despise reality as it is. They hate God. They despise reality. They hate God. That's what it comes down to, and that's why. Okay, so let's go. Let's go, Mom in the chat. Mom, love you, Mom. She texted me. She's like, "Stream looks great. It's going good." Let's see here, Carson. he's got his computer hardwired in and is still losing service. That's crazy. That's crazy, bro. Carson, you're good, bro. Let me ask if he can join back up. Hold up 1 second here. Okay, cool. So we're gonna have Carson join back tomorrow. I guess we can just kind of go on to the last point. So, yeah, so we'll have Carson back on tomorrow. We'll make sure that he gets good internet. He's currently in Arizona right now. But I do want him to have back on with a great internet connection because he is a great guest. I love talking to people like this, man. He's a good dude, really solid Christian dude. He's a really cool media company, Off the Record USA. You guys should go check it out on Instagram, all the socials. And yeah, man. So we'll go ahead and just continue on with what I was saying here. I think the essential question comes down to, okay, how do we fix these things, right? Because these things are happening in our country every day, right? Like me and Carson talked about briefly, we have this Supreme Court situation where they ruled that illegal aliens can now have children in the country and they would automatically get citizenship. And we know the results of that. We know what that is. That is an incentive for people to come here illegally, and that's not okay. That does not need to be happening. All right, we need to hold our borders down. We need to be tough on crime. Okay, it is a crime to pass the border illegally. Duh. Obviously, duh. So, and that's kind of what me and Carson were also talking about, right? It's like you talk to people about this stuff, and it's just like not clicking with your liberals or even most people in the general public because you're being mean, right? So then the question comes down to, okay, how do we fix this? All right. I think the answer to that is you have to install a Christian ethic in the country, and you have to clarify your position very precisely, okay? Because nowadays there's so many ideas out there running around rampant, so many heresies out there, especially in the Christian world. And, I think with these modern errors, what you have to do is you have to be explicitly Christian, and you have to be very clear about your position, and you have to do it with love. You have to do those three things. You have to have charity when you're presenting your position, okay? So here's the solution. Here's my solution, at least. We need a Christian ethic in the government, okay? We need Christians to get in the government. We need them to start taking over positions of power. And we need to install a Christian ethic whenever it comes to this particular situation, this problem of illegal immigration, okay? And now, what is the Christian, what is the Catholic perspective on this, right? Well, I think I would argue that it's what St. Augustine said, it's ordo mortis, right? What is your order of love, okay? Your order of love should be your nation, right? You should love your nation, but more so, but it's not just that, it's ordered, okay? Ordo mortis, the order of love. First, you love God, you love your nation, and then your family. I might be getting those two flips up on the back, but it's love God first, right? Love your family, love your nation, okay? So those are kind of the three. Those are the three pillars of Order of Morris. All right, and so people need to remember that, especially some of these illegal immigrants that come into the country. Okay, and admittedly, a lot of them are Catholic. Okay, and so yo, Carson, what's going on, man? Are we back? We might be back. Are we
Look, I
back?
think we might be back.
No way,
I
we're
tested
back.
my internet. We should be good.
Dude, we are so back. Holy, let's go. Well, hey, I also want to get you on another time too. So I'm happy to have you back tonight. But I want to get you back on the show soon as well too. Whenever we get you with the webcam and stuff. Um, but just kind of going off what I was talking about. Do you know anything about Saint Augustine and what he described Ordo Morris? I know JD Vance talked about it a little bit with the immigration debate. And basically that we have a certain order of love as humans, right? We love God, we love our family, we love our nation. And in that, a lot of these illegal immigrants need to realize that, loving their nation isn't always fleeing it. It's staying in there and fixing the problems. And so I think that that's a major pillar of Christianity that we need to stick to, as Christians, as Catholics, as conservatives, to really get this point across and to try to fix this problem that we're having. What do you think about all that?
A major critique I see a lot from the left is they say that America's government is not a Christian infrastructure surrounding it. And what I mean by that is our institutions, right? The balance
Right.
and checks of powers, how the president is ran, among stuff like that. And they argue because the separation of church and state that we don't see any intermingling of that. And debated a few Yale law students on this and the fact of our infrastructure for government is the most Christian type of infrastructure that there is in the world. If you think about it, checks and balances of power is not an
True.
inherent human nature. It's more of a virtue that is tied back to the Christian religion, among every other aspect of how the actual infrastructure is ordained with our government. So I agree with what JD is saying a little bit. I believe you prefaced that going back to the Catholic faith, but also with the Christian foundations of our nation. There should be an elimination of the separation of church and state because our own government's infrastructure doesn't
Absolutely.
follow that. It's breaking that own creed.
Right. Well, I wouldn't even say we need to eliminate that. I think we need to go back to what the founding colonies, or the founding United States, even by the time the Constitution was ratified, we need to go back to what they understood by separation of church and state. People think about it as, oh, okay, well, you have the government on one hand and the church on the other. And that's just very much not true because when you go back and you look at it, all the states, even after the ratification of the Constitution, had state churches. What they meant by separation of church and state is that you couldn't you couldn't force your denomination on somebody else, essentially, right? That was the whole problem they were having in England, fleeing over here. And so I totally agree with you. I think we need to get back to what the founders actually had in mind whenever they set up this system of government that we had, and we need to eliminate some of the power in the federal government. I think we need to get back to the principle of subsidiarity of states' rights. I think we need to get back to smaller government. And I guess just like on a broader note, what do you kind of think is the solution to this? What is the Christian way to sort of handle this immigration crisis we're having right now in the country?
I'd say the best Christian way to handle the immigration crisis and do it in a humane way is having accountability with the rule of law. I think that is the first step in it. And that means, yes, you do have to forcefully remove people from the United States. And yes, they will be leaving crying in their mother's arms, stuff of that sort. But just because these people are showing intense emotion doesn't mean it is the wrong act to do. And I believe it is the correct way to hold accountability to these people and to our own nation as well. And I think it is more disingenuous to the Christian faith if you don't uphold any rule of law in your nation, because also states in the Bible that Jesus builds up kings and tears down empires and nations. And I think the only way that you can withhold your nation and withhold your sovereignty is such a word that is overlooked these days, and
True.
that's how you ultimately do it, is withholding your sovereignty as a nation.
Dude, so absolutely true, man. And we need to, kind of what you were touching on before, we need to have that balance of justice and mercy, right? And I think a lot of the times, whenever it comes down to this issue, people lean on the mercy side to the point that they exclude justice, you know? And Aristotle talks about this. He talks about virtue as a means in between, right? So if you're too merciful, you're going to get ran over. However, if you're too, by the letter of the law, right, then you'll be a Pharisee. So I think that there's a middle road in there, and I totally agree with what you're saying. We need to get back to that.
Yeah. No, Aristotle is very, very eloquent when he said that, because a lot of people try to paint you in one box, right? They'll say, okay, because you're defending rule of law, then you must not speed at all. You must treat it as sacred. You must not break any laws, because if you do, then you're a hypocrite to support any enforcement of them. That's what Dean said to me all the time, when we know that's just not true. We know that's not valid way of life, right? And it's very different because they break our nation's law as the first goodwill faith act of coming into the country, whereas when I was born as a legal citizen, I did not restrict the sovereignty of our nation at all. So that's the distinction between the two.
Yeah. All right. Well, Carson, you have white privilege, man. So you don't really have a right to talk about this. What are you thinking?
I love to show the card. There's a privilege card. I have a few buddies that have it as well. Every time we go into Costco, we show that puppy off like it's an executive membership. And
True.
going back to the white privilege argument, it's just such a virtue signal, white knighting type of act. It doesn't do any good for our society. It doesn't prove any point of oppression upon any minorities. And look, yes, I do have white privilege, but it's because of my inherent genetics of just excellence in my mind of I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be a scrappy law follower. I'm not going to join a gang and sell drugs and do all of these heinous acts. And that's what real white privilege looks like.
True, dude. Well, that's just white excellence right there too. I mean, it's like people want to pull this white
Oh, yeah.
privilege card, but it's like, there are tons of, especially, down in the South, there's tons of, white trailer park people who, it's like they have the potential to be something great. And same with the blacks and same with the Mexicans. Like they have the potential to be something great, but it's like, what do you put your mind to? Where's your heart at? Are you focused on God or not? Are you focused on getting the bag or not? Like you got to, and that's what people don't, that's what people don't understand nowadays is, not to ramble on too much about it, but that's what people don't understand nowadays is that they want to take this sort of victim mentality about everything. And it's like, at a certain point, and I even see people on our side doing that as well, oh, well, the world's against us. Oh, well, the cards are stacked against us. And it's like, okay, well, use that as motivation to go out and do something about it, right? Go get involved in local politics. Go get involved in state politics. Volunteer for a campaign. Like, there's tons of things that people could be doing, and black pilling has never helped anybody at all, ever.
Oh, 100%. And I also think with the black communities, the Hispanic communities, the whatever communities, people like to brand me as a racist. And I'm like, guys, no, no, no. In fact, I want to see a next generation of young leaders of black people that don't essentially market and monetize off of them being an independent black person separate from the white oppression. It's like, no, in fact, you need to lead your own groups in an ethno-nationalism state to greatness. You need to be the leader of your own kingdom. And a lot of these minority groups just don't have the nerve. They don't have the gall to do it. And sadly, they've been put into positions where by their own people, it's not by the white oppressor, where they continue to just do it to themselves.
Yeah, man, it's crazy, and you think that obviously there are the exceptions to the rule, right? Like you do have the blacks and the Mexicans who understand this, but like what I guess my other question to you just on this point would be like, what are like how do we like fix this cultural systemic problem that we have within these communities in the country? How do we like even go about that, or is that just something that like, do you think that we're just going to have to, let them figure out by themselves and just kind of throw our hands up and say, hey, you guys got to do this?
I mean, you have to call it out in almost a blunt, almost rude way. And it's rude for their interpretation because they believe what they're doing is virtuous. They believe what they're doing is the correct course of action. But when you have other people like us that are the people that hold these people accountable, essentially, and I mean that in the most humble and full humility way possible is when you do see this level of degradation of society, you have to call it out, right? I don't believe there should be influencers going on the whatever podcasts and helping OnlyFans models market their products. I don't believe they should be going on those type
Right.
of programs and entertaining that. And I think that's a controversial opinion because a lot of people that claim on our side that they're doing the virtuous work of holding these people accountable, yet go to a studio with 10 OnlyFans models and they don't grow their platform. You're only growing the girls' platforms that are there to sell their body because they're that material is not
Yep.
something that is doing a good for this world. So I think we have to get back to just doing common sense things and think about our repercussions and who we're actually helping and who we're hurting.
Right. Yeah. No, you're exactly right. And just on that point too, like these certain communities, right? Whether it's the the OnlyFans chicks or it's the like the black community, for example, with the after Irina Zarutska, right? Or the Carmelo Anthony situation, right? It's like instead of them calling it out and saying, "Hey, like this is wrong," obviously, like this is bad. It's like no, they're all gonna rally around them because they're victims. And same with the OnlyFans thing too. It's like you call them out, or somebody says, for example, that an OnlyFans girl, dare I say it, is a whore. Like it's like people get mad and they get so angry about it, and it's like no, like we need to call out sin for sin. Okay, we need to call out things as they are. We need to live in reality. We don't need to live in this sort of la la land like I was talking about earlier. We need to call these things out for what they are. And like you were saying, if we can just do that, then we'd be in a lot better situation.
Yeah, I think another thing that is underscored is when I call out these people, everybody who is a good Christian that's around me says, "Oh, that's so rude to call out their degeneracy because I'm sure you sin and I'm sure you do this." And it's like, yeah, I do, but I also don't flaunt my body on the internet and weaponize that sin, right? That's the
Yeah.
big issue that I have is the weaponization and the amplification of it because that is the most important thing. Sure, if you sin and nobody else sees, that's a thing you have to work out with you and God and your own faith and your religion, right? It's not hurting
Right.
other people and it's not taking people and straying them away. When you amplify it, it absolutely does pick a bone with me. And I am going to have that virtuous hill that I'm going to stand on to call that out because, yeah, I do get really angry that it is being shown to other people because if I was in the position where was not in a good spot with God, if I was not in a good spot of looking for religion in my life, then I would see stuff like this happening and it would just stray me further. And so I think that's where it has to be called out. Look, you don't have to be the most virtuous person to call it out. You just have to do what somebody else won't.
Yeah. No, and that's why it's so important that we get Christians in positions of leadership specifically, is to sort of put a stop to these things, right? I love what James Fishback is doing in Florida right now when he came out with the OnlyFans tax, right? He's going to charge creators like 50% or something like that, a tax on if they promote these services, and that's what we need to be doing. That is the cure to it right there. It starts from the top and it trickles its way down. And so if we don't start getting Christians into leadership roles, if we don't start getting Christians in the government, if we don't start getting, devout Christians into, media, then it's like, how are we supposed to, fix these problems? How are we supposed to go about any of this?
Yeah, and I also think that it should be illegal, completely illegal. I think that would be a good start in our nation. If we didn't have a feckless Supreme Court, maybe we could get some court
Yep.
cases going that would rise up the ranks to a federal ban of that. And I think that would play a lot better than even an abortion ban, even banning of any other type of thing in our nation, because what good does it provide our society, right? You could argue from a material utilitarian aspect of abortion that it's providing a cost-cutting initiative to women, blah blah blah, X, Y, and Z. They'll try to market anything under the sun to justify it. But with OnlyFans and all of these illicit adult industries, what studies show that it provides any net benefit at all, even with a utilitarian look upon it? There isn't. It just corrupts your mind. It's a money hole for people to spend endless amounts of money It's selling and abusing these younger women. There's nothing good about it. So I think there would be a bigger case in our nation to ban that. And I think it's something we could honestly see in our lifetime.
Well, dude, I really hope so. And you're 100% right about that. Like, if you look at the studies actually on pornography and what it does to the brain, it literally grows plaque in the brain, and this is and why we have allowed that, why we've allowed the misinterpretation of the First Amendment to include pornographic services is beyond me. I don't know why we would ever allow such a thing in the country. Obviously, it's going to lead to problems, and it's going to lead to destruction and vice. And we know that whenever a populace, whenever a country is moved to vice, that's the easiest time for your enemies to take over, right? You want a country of virtue. You don't want a country of vice. It's what that's also what Saint Augustine talks about, in City of God versus the City of Man, right? Um, so I guess just getting back to how we go about fixing our country. Obviously, there's a lot of things we have to fix. I did see that you posted on your story the other day that somebody charged you like 25 cents or something for sauce. Who was doing that to you, Carson?
Well, I don't want to get too racial here, but it was definitely a potential illegal immigrant at McDonald's. Look, I was just getting a meal
Oh,
in the drive-thru, and I asked for extra sauces before I even got up to the window. That's when like I was trying to stand on business. I was just hoping they said, yeah, didn't even try to throw the charge in. The woman was like, no,
right.
that's going to charge extra. And I said, take those puppies off. We're not doing that. And then I got up to the second window and I get my food, and it's like this 6'5" Mexican guy. He barely speaks a lick of English. I say, hey, could I get some extra ranches and some extra spicy buffalo? He looks at me and says, no, I'm going to have to charge extra. And I said, what is wrong with you? And he said, excuse me. And I said, why are you trying to charge me after you gave me my food? Like, can I please just have sauce? And he said no. And I was like, all right, whatever, man. And I drove off. And it's like people like that just really try to ruin your day. And look,
True.
that's so little in comparison to what people deal with, but like I think we all need to just have a benefit of the doubt with everybody and what everybody is dealing with. So it taught me as a person, like when I go on and debate these people on TikTok lives, to be a little less harsh because, I don't know what's happened in their day. And so, look, I take the littlest
True.
situations to heart, and it makes you a better person. And that's my biggest advice to somebody else is use those moments as something to learn from.
It does, yeah. No, that's a good way to look at it. I will qualify that though when I say, like obviously it is a small situation, right? I mean, you're just talking about sauces, but I think it does kind of signify like how terrible our country is now. Like how low have we gone to where, it's like it's dare I say it, a Star of David at every fast food restaurant where they want to charge you for sauces. That's crazy. So, dude, it's
Oh, I know.
insane.
That's immediately what I thought. That's
Yeah,
immediately what I thought. I was like, there is only one group of people that could have thought how to do this, and we all know who we're talking about. So
so
it's so
true.
funny.
So true. It's that, and then also what's been really irritating me lately is the Disney Plus ads and the Netflix ads. It's like, all right, I'm paying for a subscription plan for these services. I'm paying you 10, $12 a month. Are you not happy? Is that not enough money? Do I need to pay you an extra $10 to get these ads off my screen so I can watch Outer Banks in peace, please? So I think it's ridiculous, man. It's crazy.
By the way,
Had
did
some
you see that California passed a new law that states that commercial providers can't raise the volume of their commercials whenever it goes to ad breaks? Look, I think California has done a lot of stupid things. That is one of the smartest legislations I have heard probably the last 5 years.
Let's go. Yeah, that did. No, I didn't hear about that. Why is that being blasted around everywhere? How is that not like a winning? Who's putting that forward? Or did it already pass?
It already passed. Look, it's a niche
Hey, let's go.
law that just got passed out there, but I think it should be, enacted nationwide, because why can you watch a program and then I don't know if you've ever experienced this, they turn the ad volume up to like 500. So you'll be watching an NBA game, you'll have it on like 10 volume, and then it'll go to ad break, and then the Burger King commercials just ear grape. It's like, really? Like, yeah. I think if there's one thing Gavin Newsom has signed into law that's good, that's probably the top of the list.
True. Yeah, very true. Now, Carson, I do have to ask so there are a couple of governor's races going on right now. I'm helping out with the Monty Fritz campaign here in Tennessee that's running against Marsha Blackburn. Total corrupt. Vote Monty Fritz, August 6th. Don't vote Marsha Blackburn. She's going to bring AI data centers here. It's going to be awful. And then also we have Fishback in Florida, obviously, that everybody knows about. Carson, kind of give the rundown on what's going on in California with the governor's race, if you can. What is do you think that the Democrat is for sure going to win out there? Is it maybe a toss up? What have you been seeing?
I believe it's obviously going to favor the Democrat out there. I believe that it's going to be a closer fight than we've seen since Arnold, right? I think that is what we are going to see out there with Steve Hilton versus Javier Becerra, and it's going to be a very interesting time in California's history. There's not a kind of national figure that's going to be their governor, and I have a feeling it's going to be very stagnant. It's going to be very bland out in California for the next 4 years. And so maybe that's something they need. I don't know, but the race is not looking good out there, obviously. It's just an uphill battle for any Republican. And so we'll see. Maybe we'll get pleasantly surprised and it gets within 5 points. But, there's a lot of time between now and November, and I guess we just sit back and watch and wait.
Right. And I could be wrong about this, but didn't the Supreme Court also rule that mail-in ballots after Election Day are okay? Is that just for national election, or is that for statewide races too?
I've started coming up with a new nickname for Amy Coney Barrett, and it's ACAB Amy, because she must hate our country. She must hate our police. She must hate the rule of law. And yes, you're exactly correct. People can send in a mail-in ballot as long as it is postmarked for the election day 5 days after the election. So election day is no longer a thing. Our elections are no longer fair. And you're going to get results that are just so skewed, so corrupt. And by the way, I don't know if you've ever seen the poll workers. They are beauties in these cities. Look, your vote is about it's about as worthwhile as a McDonald's burger wrapper in the trash can, right? That's how sacred they view your vote. And so Amy Coney Barrett has just single-handedly destroyed the country in a 3-day period. She should be impeached immediately.
Right. Yeah, she was supposed to be, the conservative savior, right? And I'm ashamed, one of my fellow Catholics betraying us like that. It's not a good sign for her. And I don't know why Trump thought that was a good idea to appoint her. I don't know if he didn't see the red flags, or maybe he did and he did it anyways. I don't know. But yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't know what she's up to out there. I don't know why she's, siding with the libtards all the time. So yeah, it's wild, man. We live in crazy times. Carson, what are some of the projects you're working on right now, and what are some exciting things you have coming up?
Yeah, brother, to wrap it up, I would have to say there is a lot of projects we got in the pipeline. Obviously, my show's starting to kick off. We're also getting the TikTok updates are a huge pipeline for people joining in on the new audience. And then as a company as a whole, we have a lot of travel planned for summer and fall. We're going to be mobile, we're going to be nationwide, and we're going to be doing a lot of different events, a lot of different projects, and even we might start up our own campus debates in the fall. We will have to see, but I don't want to tease too much because I'd rather underpromise and overdeliver.
Right. No, 100%. I get that. And, and I'll talk to you a little bit about this off podcast too. But, if you need some connections for the University of Tennessee, let me know. I got you. I can hook you up if you wanted to do some sort of campus tour there. So, but yeah, man. Well, Carson, that's pretty much all I got for you tonight, brother. I appreciate you coming on. Do you have any final closing words or anything you want to leave the audience off with?
Yeah, I would say to the audience, a good frame of mind to protect our country, protect our rule of law, protect our way of life, our culture, our God is to be Jesus first in America only. I think you have to obviously put Jesus first in everything that you do, right? That's a big motto of your new brand. And
Right. Love
you have
Jesus.
to put
Yes.
America only. Yes, Love Jesus Company. And you have to put America only. And what that means is walking into the negotiation room and not willing to give an inch, because your set ideals, your set morals should be something that, yes, can be changed, but when you are negotiating with the other side, should not change based off of pressure against you. So that's the one thing I would like to leave. You're honest, brother.
Dude, I love that. Well, Carson, thank you for coming on, man. Last thing, where can people find your socials? Where can they find your show? It's called The Common Cause, correct?
Yes, it's called The Common Cause. Look, if you want to follow me on any platform, it's at King_Carson05. And then I also have a link tree that directs you to every one of my links. I have my show on there. I have everything that you would ever need about me there. So makes it easy.
Awesome. Well, Carson, again, man, thank you so much for coming on and spending your time with the podcast, man. I want to get you on again soon. Let's plan it. Let's get you on whenever you're back in your studio, and we'll do a longer episode. And we can talk about literally whatever. So if you're down for it, I'm down. Carson, it's been a pleasure, brother. Thank you.
I'd love to, man. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you. All right, guys, that has been the second episode of the Love Jesus podcast. If you guys enjoyed the episode today, be sure to go to lovejesuscompany.com. Get yourself a t-shirt, sweatshirt, stickers. We have a lot more designs coming soon, too, so stay tuned for that. Be sure to follow the socials at Love Jesus Company or my personal socials at Drew Chandler. And yeah, appreciate you guys so much for watching. God bless you guys. May Christ be glorified.